Today we have a great malicious compliance story all involving somebody on sick leave. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, micromanager. I had a micromanager who used to yell at me for prepping food items that were not on the food prep list when asked to do so by other managers, team leads, and associates, including the general manager, who was not micromanager, as well as for doing things that were not a part of my assigned duties for the day. We had prep lists and duties printed out with our names and time slots for said duties. The last part is key. Threats and yelling included threats to fire my transgender slur butt. Yes, I'm openly trans, and no, I've never received any payments for XXX services. Cue malicious compliance here. So from that day on, I follow his word as law. Micromanager needs 7 containers of sliced tomatoes. Sorry, the list says to make 5. Micromanager needs teriyaki bowls. Sorry, but the list says to make 0 today. Micromanager needs me on dish because he needs soup bowls and plates. Sorry, but the duty roster says that I'm on food prep and trash duty only. Micromanager needs me on dish from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Sorry, but the roster says that I'm on dish from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and on food prep from 11 a.m. till my shift end at 2 p.m. Micromanager needs me helping out on dining room because we have callouts. Sorry, but I'm on dish and food prep only today. GM wants me on dish, but micromanager needs food prepped? Sorry, but micromanager threatened to fire my transgender slur butt if I don't do what the roster/list says I am to do. Please ask someone else to do dish. What? You still need me to do it? Okay, I guess I'm fired then. Micromanager stopped complaining after he realized that the only competent, as in didn't break 60 plates a day, food prep and dishwasher willing to work weekends was willing to walk out. Note, about 3 months later, I did give my 2 weeks. At the exit interview, I responded to the reason why I was leaving as being treated as an adult entertainment object by creepy 40-year-old married men who have 7-year-old daughters and 17-year-old boys. Note 2, before micromanager, I would stay past my shift end to help out. I always clocked in early, even if I was 2 hours early to my shift, and was always willing to help other associates with things like refilling their drawers when it was super busy, helping the dining person clean up the middle schooler hurricane on Friday nights, and over-prepping stuff so that the caterer didn't have to do it when he came in 2 hours later. Note 3, after micromanager, I did exactly what was required of me, clocked in exactly when my shift started, took my full 30-minute break. I used to clock back in if my meal only took 15 minutes to eat, clocked out at my exact shift end, not even staying to finish the list if I didn't finish everything on it. They went from me covering 5 people's jobs to having to hire, train, and replace 5 people's jobs when I stopped doing extra and the new people quit 2 to 3 weeks in every time. Additionally, a couple of the other girls, I'm trans femme, also joined in on the fun, including a woman who hated my lesbian transgender existence. That one surprised me as we equally hated each other, so I didn't expect support from her. Final note, I toned down the kind of insults micromanager used, and kept 98% of the sleazy crap he suggested out of this post. It was stuff that was really dark and would make my malicious compliance tale look like some tall tale written by a drug addict to even myself. Like, even I can't believe I went through that crap. Congratulations, micromanager, you freaked up big. Get benched, String Corporation. I think it just goes to show that when there's like a real injustice going on here, even people who normally hate you would be willing to jump in and join in. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you enjoy awesome stories of malicious compliance, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is boss firing me without a warning and freaking up the termination. I worked for a small company for the last 2 years as a software developer, and with small, I mean that I was the only employee. So for many projects my boss had, I wrote the main part of the code base. In March, I made a mistake in one of the updates, and from then on, my boss made it a habit to yell at me at least once every day and tell me how stupid I am. Additionally, he started to call me outside of my working hours to demand fixes for problems that, at the most part, were his own mistakes. To be fair, my code quality started to go downhill after I had several mental breakdowns thanks to behavior. At the start of May, he said to me that he doesn't want to fire me but would recommend that I find another job in the next month. So I applied to several companies and was waiting for the responses when he decided to terminate me nonetheless 2 weeks later. He wrote a termination letter and sent it to my home address, but didn't say a word to me. So I was quite shocked when I received the letter, which stated that I was fired starting July the 1st, and that I should take my remaining 20 vacation days, which is the rest of my annual leave, in June. But in Germany, where I work, the employer is only obliged to give you the rest of your annual leave if you worked more than 6 months in the company for this year. Additionally, an important project which I'd been working on since February was due in mid-June, and was not even close to finished because my boss had prioritized tickets from other projects. So I wrote my boss that I would like to take the vacation days immediately, as written in the termination. But if he needed help in finishing the current project, I would be willing to have the remaining vacation days be paid out to me. As soon as I sent the message, I saw in the chat program that he was typing. He answered that the number of vacation days in the letter of termination was a minor spelling mistake, and that I only had 6 days left. After a quick chat with an attorney, friend of my parents, who started laughing when I told him of my boss's reaction, I wrote my boss a formal mail in which I informed him that I would definitely take the vacation days, as stated in the letter, and because the termination also stated that the remaining vacation time will not be paid out, I will withdraw the regarding offer. The next week, he grudgingly accepted the 20 vacation days, and I will never forget the expression of defeat in his face at the last day when he realized that the project he took a loan for was about to phenomenally fail because I was the only one working on it and he didn't even try to understand how it works. His slogan always was, "As long as it works, I don't care." You know, honestly, I wouldn't mind a boss or a manager that takes on that mantle of "as long as it works, I don't care." But the thing is, you have to be a good, personable manager or boss for that to work. Because if you have star workers doing these things for you and you don't understand how it works, you can't go running them off. This next story is, HR doesn't want to deal with too many child sick pay requests. No problem. My wife and I are both working, and meanwhile our 2 kids are in daycare, if they're not sick. Our agreement was that if a child is sick, one stays home the first day, the other one the next day, and so on until the child is fit again, or one of us catches it too. On the one hand, that way care work is split evenly amongst us, and on the other hand, nobody misses sudden work for an extended time. We're entitled to 30 days of child sick pay per child and per parent. It doesn't cover everything, but if I recall correctly, about 85 to 90%. Because we're alternating each day, we get 1 doctor's notice per day and split them accordingly among us. Instead of 1 notice for a week, we would have 5, which we submit to our employers and health insurance to deal with each other and get paid. HR, coincidentally the wife of my manager, told me that it's too much hassle to deal with a few papers instead of a single one, and that one of us should stay at home, implying my wife, as it's sadly still pretty normal for the mother to deal with care work. We did comply, but I'll take my paid child sick days until I run out, and then my wife will start to cover it. Since then, our children were sick twice and I stayed home the whole time, 3 days in a week. My manager asked why I wasn't coming in as I used to, and that some orders nearly missed their deadlines. I said HR, his wife, wanted it that way, and I still have around 50 days of child sick pay left. I really enjoyed the look on his face. Before anyone assumes anything, my employer is great, and I have a good relationship with my manager and the owner. This story cannot be American at all, right? Having 50 days of child sick pay? Now what in tarnation is that? Our next story is, tell me to smile? Bet this isn't what you meant. After a long, stressful day at school, I was picked up by my dad to go to his house. My parents are divorced. You could see in my face that I was tired and just wanted to get home. I was in the back seat staring out the window and my dad decided to say, "Come on, smile, don't look so miserable." Most people don't smile if they're tired or stressed. Common sense. I'd had enough of being told to smile by anyone. Old men, my parents, etc. So I decided I would follow his request. I put on the biggest, craziest, most Joker-like smile I could form and held it until I went to bed. We had to stop at the shops to get dinner. Everyone thought I was crazy, but it was worth it. He was completely and utterly embarrassed. Tried to get me to stop as we were getting stared at. Alas, I did not, as I wanted to prove my point. Yeah, as somebody that was never personally very outgoing, I always hated when either my parents or other adults or teachers or whatever would say smile or turn that frown upside down or whatever. It doesn't help that I have like resting depression face, so it looks like I'm just going around constantly frowning or something. So you naturally just kind of get opened up to, come on, smile. Are you feeling all right? Our next story is, let's threaten the person on sick leave. I was working in a plastic factory a few years back. The machinery I was working on mostly did plastic for hay bales. The group I was in consisted of 4 people, including me, and 2 of them did close to nothing while me and this really old dude had to do their part too every day. I was working 6 days a week doing the job of 3 people, and one time I overslept, and when the manager called me, I quickly drove to work and was approximately 15 minutes late. The old dude retired, and I was left with the 2 guys that left the site constantly to do God knows what. And one time, the robot that usually does the packaging didn't get the plastic roll in its package, and I went to put it in. When you enter the area the robot is working in, the sensors immediately stop the robot. The robot for some reason suddenly started moving and punched the back of my right hand, and it was crushed. I got an ambulance to the ER, and I got 1 month of sick leave, and when I went to turn it in, my boss jumped. I explained to him that my hand also has a nerve damage, and I left to play Witcher. 4 days into the sick leave, my boss calls me and tells me that if I don't get back to work earlier, he would have to reconsider extending my contract, and after stuttering a bit, I told him I understood, and that was the end of the call. I went back the next week, and when I got to my machines, the orders that we had before my sick leave were still ongoing and hadn't made almost any progress. I walked through the cafeteria into the office area and told my boss I changed my mind and I'm gonna quit, which made him really angry. Told him good luck with the important person order and made my leave. The huge factory is next to a bunch of really small towns, and the word spread about the case, and no one would fill my or the old man's positions, and they had to close the part I was working in. So the one person who was trying to do their job and got hurt is going to get reprimanded and strung out when these other 2 people who, I don't know, if they were doing their job, maybe it wouldn't have happened the way it did, just skate on by. Our next story is, I'm calling them like I'm supposed to. I work in sales, and one of my jobs is to call pipeline leads. Pipeline leads are customers who we've spoken to in the past that didn't buy for whatever reason. Over the years, I've had a few customers, leads, who very clearly had very sound and good judgment not to do business with me. It's not because I'm bad or they're bad, it's because we aren't a good fit for each other, and that's okay. Now, I hate bugging those people, but my management wants us calling our entire pipeline every 90 days. Now, in order to call those leads, I go to their profile and click the number, and it dials on my computer and gets counted as a call. I also noticed, unless the software has detected we made positive contact with the person we're calling, the call timer is always at 000. Since most of our calls go unanswered, 000 is a really common call time. I, however, noticed it takes like 2 or 3 rings for the call to even ring through to the client. Tested this on my phone and my coworker's phone, so I have a list of clients that I'm supposed to call every 90 days. I spread those clients throughout the 90 days. When I see a client I know doesn't want to talk to me, I hit the call button and then hang up right away. The person I called doesn't even get notified they got called, but on my metrics, it shows that I called them. Since doing this, my sales have gone up for a few reasons. 1, I found a way to deal with the most annoying part of the job my manager has me doing, which makes my mindset better, which in turn means I sell better. I'm also not getting yelled at by people who are like, I told you I'm not buying your crap. And my manager is stoked and loves to use me as an example to the other salespeople because my nickname has become Pipeline Master. Weird freaking nickname, but whatever. I think the only real annoying thing here is essentially you feel like you're conceding to their tactics. In a way, you're kind of validating what they're wanting to do by misleading them. They're like, you have to call everybody every 90 days. And so technically on paper, you are complying with that and you're starting to get great results and skyrocketing. And you just have to like smile and shake their hands and say, yep, everything's working according to your plans. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another awesome malicious compliance story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.